Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
Something I say on, I think I've said it on pretty much every podcast I've been on at this point, but it's Star Wars is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, you might not like every single thing that comes out, and that's okay. You know what? There's somebody that's going to be inspired by it, and that's okay. That's a beautiful thing.
If there's a bright center to the universe of Star Wars fandom, our guest today may very well be right in the middle of it. His love for the franchise led him to be a writer, copy editor, and administrator of Wookiepedia. Please give a warm hello there to Jordan Wilson.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great having you, thank you. Are you ready to share with the world what Star Wars means to you?
Please, let's do it.
Excellent. We like to start with a segment we call 5 with the Force. This is just 5 basic questions I ask all my guests. Think of it as a sort of Star Wars fandom baseline. And the first one, super simple. Which Star Wars movie is your go-to favorite?
Gotta go Revenge of the Sith. That was the first one that I actually saw in theaters back in 2005, and that experience just kind of stuck with me.
You're the first to say Revenge of the Sith, and I love that because I'm also a prequel kid, and they don't get a lot of love on this show necessarily.
Well, today they are then.
What makes it your go-to?
Honestly, it was just that whole experience of seeing Star Wars pop up on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
I went with my grandma, and just that movie just kind of stuck with me. You know how it just occasionally you'll see something that just kind of keeps replaying in the back of your head, and that one just stuck with me. A couple years later, that's when I finally kind of started reading some of the books, got into the Heir of the Empire trilogy, and almost 20 years later, here we are.
Yes.
Starring on a pod.
For my next question, I need a D6. What or who is your favorite droid?
Ooh. That's a tricky one. You know what? Let's go IG-88, just because I always absolutely loved the IG-88 story in the old, was it Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, I want to say? Or no, Tales from Jabba's Palace.
Or Tales of the Bounty Hunter?
Yeah. You know what? Let's go with that.
I love that answer. Another first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, IG-88 does not get, although deserves a lot of love, does not get a lot of love so far.
No.
Yeah, that was just one of those stories that just kind of stuck with me. I don't know, there was something just kind of mysterious about the Empire not being fully in control as Palpatine thought they were.
Oh yeah, that's a good call out.
It's always fascinating when you see the stories kind of dive into that area of creating gray where there was only black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plus, we got to throw the droids some love. In the event that our bots ever rise up and take over Wookiepedia, we want to be on their good side.
Question number 3. What is your favorite line to quote?
It's going to be a Thrawn quote from Heir to the Empire, but it was so artistically done.
Oh.
It's one of those quotes that just stuck with me, and it's kind of my go-to when it's like, you don't have to take everything as it is. You can just break it down into components and just tackle it logically.
Yeah.
Artistically, as it were.
Exactly. And really great how Thrawn is using that word. Okay, now leads into the next question. Can you do any Star Wars impressions or impersonations?
I can do a really terrible Chewbacca. It is not good, and I will not subject the world to it. Most I can do is like a half-hearted hello there. Which is not that great. It's pretty terrible.
Does your Chewbacca come out after like happy hour though? We've had that a couple times where like there's the impersonation and then there's the drunk impersonation.
And the best I can pull off is like a which I feel like is just gonna call my cats if anything, so you might get a co-host later.
Aw, well I have 2 running around by my feet, so they're more than welcome.
And the final question, besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? This could be a TV show, a comic book, a novel, a game, really anything.
I honestly tend to gravitate putting aside, like, novels are always my passion. So some of the old retro novels like Heir to the Empire, the Jedi Academy trilogy, those are kind of my go-tos. But when it comes to like movies and shows, I tend to gravitate towards whatever's coming up. I got hyped up for it. It's the experience. It's that new experience all over again.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's so right now it might be the Acolyte.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. That's going to be really good. First up, though, is going to be this night's Bad Batch, which I'm hearing is going to be good. Right. I see that all of, quite literally, everyone who works on it is out trolling Twitter tonight.
What does that look like to you when the creators are trolling Twitter?
Oh, my first thought is message the Piners and be like, what have you done to us? And second is to find some way to twist that and have some fun with the fan community. Be it what are you guys looking forward to? Throwing a little wink. It's all about just having some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're spinning everybody up.
Yeah. And I have a strong feeling that after the episode, as is my weekly routine, I'm sure I'll be messaging Sean and Dina Kiner after me and like, you both just kind of hit it out of the park again.
I love that.
Yeah, their music has been amazing. I loved Ahsoka, the soundtrack to Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about the music that you think really fits Star Wars?
I think the way that John Williams always nailed kind of that orchestral feeling, the Kiners have just harnessed that perfectly, but with their own little kind of play on it, their own twist, as it were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kind of bringing it into a more modern age.
Yeah, and even with like the Ahsoka credits, it just, you've had this episode rip your heart out, and it just rolls into this perfect melody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back. Let's take a step back to your Star Wars journey. You said Revenge of the Sith was the first movie you saw in the theaters. Was that your first movie that introduced you to Star Wars?
That was the one that really it wasn't what really nudged me into it per se, but that was when I really started noticing it. So like growing up, like I knew, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. I knew all those kind of things. I'd seen clips here and there. I remember watching bits and pieces of the Phantom Menace at one of my friends' houses. But that was kind of where it all it just kind of came home for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like I said, like 2 years later, I started finding all the other materials. I had a friend tell me there's a site called Wookiepedia that has literally everything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's more than movies?
So you were introduced to Wookiepedia, you said, what, we're now 20 years later?
Yeah, I would say around probably in my account history, I first made an account around like 2008. So I think I found the site probably around 2007, so like 2 years after it was made.
That's amazing. Okay, so you get really into Star Wars after seeing it in theaters. You kind of mentioned about 2 years later, you really started to dive into more material. What did that look like in your day-to-day life? How was Star Wars influencing your day-to-day?
Well, other than the massive pile of books that I always had next to my bed at all times, it was kind of scrolling through and just making notes of kind of what my favorite parts were, what pages they were on, so I could go back and read them again.
Aww.
And then from there, that led to me trying to like print out every single battle article on Wookiepedia just because I liked reading them about, the history of the galaxy. And then around 2008, I decided to kind of take the plunge and made a couple edits. And, it's pretty addictive. You make one and you get sucked in. You want to make another and another.
Yeah.
So you're in this process, you're making changes. How did you make the leap from being a fan making changes to being an administrator?
Oh gosh, that was a long amount of years. So like I said, around like 2008, I dabbled in a couple edits here and there, and then I just kind of stuck with just kind of reading it because it's a lot to take in. And when I did kind of start rejoining, which would have been around 2011, I think I made like a couple edits here and there, but 2011 was when it really kind of jumped in. I joined like the site's IRC community, started kind of meeting some of the other people who were working on it. And you end up kind of just with this nice little kind of close-knit community where it's not just, people working on something they love. It's just a group of friends getting together and hanging out.
Yep.
I'm sure there's people working on Wookiepedia all across the states, but do you consider yourselves kind of tightly knit?
We are, yeah. We have a lot of people like around the entire globe. So one of the great aspects of it is you get to learn so much about other people's cultures. What it's like where they live. It kind of lets you just kind of broaden your horizons. Then the couple times where you'll get to meet people like in person at a convention, or Fandom, our host, does like a yearly community connect where they invite admins and editors from a number of different sites together just to kind of get together and do an in-person conference. And it's great getting to kind of see all these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what is it like to be a fan of Star Wars, but also have a responsibility to the Wookiepedia brand? And it's almost like this may be not the best way of saying it, but it's almost like you're drowning in Star Wars. Like you've taken like your love of Wookiepedia, your love of novels, your love of Star Wars, and now you have to face it every day. Is that a challenge at all?
Honestly, yeah, it can be. The real saving grace, honestly, is the fact that no single person has to do everything. I tend to lean more towards like our social media. But there's people who are just doing article reviewing. There's people who prefer doing appearances lists. There's people who just like writing out, minor characters. You kind of take all these different people, and when you put it all together, you have one fully functional site.
That's incredible. I don't think I understood how many folks globally were involved and in that community behind the scenes.
Yeah, on a regular day-to-day basis, there's at least a couple dozen people that are regularly, I say regularly as in like editing every day.
Yeah.
And over the course of a month, it can be anywhere from a couple dozen to probably a few hundred.
Wow.
Anything from like one edit here and there doing a typo to someone writing out a new blurb for Anakin Skywalker.
Sure. Yeah, no, definitely the fan contribution. I think I meant more the team that's making that ship continue on its course. So, okay.
The crew.
The crew behind the scenes. Thank you. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Can you tell it's 5:30 on a Tuesday? So what are some of the more like surprising or maybe your more like obscure or favorite facts like Star Wars facts that you've kind of stumbled upon in your Wookiepedia journey?
There's one in particular.
Okay.
And it is some of the most cursed knowledge that I've ever been cursed with.
Oh God.
And therefore I share it with everyone. And
do we need like a trigger warning?
Are you familiar with Monsters and Aliens by George Lucas?
No.
Okay, not
which
many
is
people are.
Strange because
yes,
it's sort of a quasi-reference book where it just kind of covers a lot of his old concept materials, some old kind of sketches, and in it there's a story about something called Argo 6.
Okay.
And the only way I can do it justice is by actually telling you the article.
Okay.
It's very short. It's what we call a comprehensive article, so it's under 250 words, and it's gone through our review process.
I'm sitting on pins and needles.
I know. I'm trying to think of what it could possibly be. And
you said it was Monsters and Aliens?
Yeah, so it's Monsters and Aliens from George Lucas was essentially a publication that combines creature designs and photographs from various projects George Lucas had done.
Oh.
So it's not, it's not canon or anything like that. It's not Legends.
Yeah.
It's just kind of exists on its own.
It's like the holiday special.
I feel a little bit less bad about not knowing what this is now.
It's very obscure.
Also, it was released the year I was born, I'm reading right now, so that too.
Oh, hey, it was released the same year I was born. So it starts with a quote from something called the Galactic Gossip. I don't know what that is. Nobody does. A molecular dentist on Argo 6 performing a routine molar cracking uncovered a tiny but complex farm in the mouth of one of her patients.
What?
Argo 6 was a terrestrial astronomical object, the climate of which featured several seasons. All members of a family residing on the celestial body maintained miniature farms in their mouths, which helped them provide them with sustenance. The farm in the mouth of one member of the family consisted of fields of alfalfa, chicken coops, and a complex irrigation system.
There's so much happening right now.
I have to curse everyone with this knowledge.
Well, it sounds very much like, have you ever read any Kurt Vonnegut?
I haven't, no.
He has this one character who's a sci-fi writer, and he comes up with these bizarre sci-fi scenarios, and it sounds very much in that realm. And also my other thought was of these beings kind of living within someone else was midichlorians.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Wills.
Jordan, I feel like you've given us, we're doing these little things called mini-sodes, where we're doing like episodes between episodes inspired by things that our guests bring
I've now
to the
just
table.
given you your next topic.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about all of George Lucas's other Star Wars and dive into the like more obscure for
If you end up if you go and buy a copy of this book, then you'll be like the third podcast group that has gone to buy this book after I mentioned it, just to see what other wild and wacky things are in it.
I'm so excited. Thank you for that.
I know. You really have to.
I don't know if I should say you're welcome or I'm sorry.
Well, I'll let you know when I read it. But going back to Star
We have a video on it too on our YouTube, which is literally
wow.
just me reading the article for everyone, and it is so cursed.
Oh man, that might end up on our social. What's the most challenging entry you maybe worked on?
That's a tricky one because I tend to be more active when it comes to our socials and just kind of community management in general.
Oh, that's fair.
But I would say probably one of my earlier good articles. So a good article is what we define as something between 251 and like 999 words.
Wow.
Where it contains every relevant piece of information. It's undergone a review process to make sure there's nothing missing. It would have been one of the ones from the old novel, The Approaching Storm by Alan Dean Foster.
Okay.
That I'd been doing when I first started a couple years later. I started doing a couple of the kind of the battle articles, the characters.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of those ones that really taught me the ins and outs of the site and kind of how the site formatting works. Also, I see a cat in the background in there, and that is like the greatest thing ever.
Oh, yeah. That's Oliver.
I want to take a quick step backwards, and I apologize for this.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. I dove down the
That's okay.
rabbit hole.
But you had mentioned that Revenge of the Sith is the one that really made you take notice of Star Wars. How were you exposed to the rest of the film? Or how did you come across the rest of the film?
So from there, that's a very good question, to be honest. I imagine that after I saw Revenge of the Sith, at some point I would have found a copy to watch just to kind of get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more so the novels that really dragged me into it. And then the rest of the movies, like I knew the basics, but the rest of them were kind of an afterthought at that point. It was just like Heirs of the Empire, Jedi Academy trilogy, and then, oh, that's right, there's all these movies.
Now, was it weird? Because when the prequels came out, there were a few prequel books, but there was a lot of original trilogy books. Was it weird being a fan of Revenge of the Sith and then kind of having to learn this new cast that was from a different era?
I think it honestly made it a little bit more fun because it's kind of like, there's more than what you see on the screen. There's all these other adventures that you don't know about. And, suddenly all these characters you thought were dead, you get to experience all these new adventures with them. They're going to die still, but you get to have an adventure.
Yeah.
You get them for a little bit longer, though. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you consider a big difference between Disney canon and Legends? Or are you just kind of the mind that all of Star Wars is Star Wars, even though one may be like a different timeline?
I tend to lean towards, that it's, all Star Wars is good Star Wars. Something I say on, I think I've said it on pretty much every podcast I've been on at this point, but it's Star Wars is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You might not like every single thing that comes out, and that's okay. You know what? There's somebody that's going to be inspired by it, and that's okay. That's a beautiful thing.
It is.
I personally
really
just
is.
love everything. I just love everything. I just love seeing new material.
Yeah.
Same way.
Except the holiday special. We forget about the holiday special.
It gets
Doesn't
some love
exist.
on here, though.
Every year, my holiday tradition is always tormenting Mark Hamill by tweeting him in something about the holiday special. I believe last year he said something along the lines of "Don't push it. I followed you because of the name."
Oh,
So,
that's a win. I would.
if you're
like
watching
that
this,
tweet.
If you're watching this, Mark, we love you, and we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it again this year.
We do love him.
So, going into the sequels, what was your reaction to that first trailer of Force Awakens?
Initially, I did feel a little bit of kind of shock and sadness because, your initial thought is, this galaxy I've loved, they're discontinuing it. But then once I got past that, and it's like, well, they're not going anywhere. Maybe someday they'll pick it up again, but we're getting new movies. We're getting all this new material. They get to explore the galaxy in an entirely different way that's not, predetermined by 30 years of books and comics.
Yeah. One of the things I love about the novels are the abilities for the novels to really capture that essence of Star Wars but present it in the form of, words, because Star Wars is such a visual kind of story.
Yeah.
And what are some of your favorite aspects of the novels? What do you think the novels bring to the table that is very Star Warsian to you? Is Star Warsian a word still?
I think we just made it one.
We're making things up here. You know what? That's okay.
We're the Shakespeare of the Star Wars universe.
I'll use an analogy that people have used to describe what fandom, the platform, is. So the analogy is always that if Wookiepedia is the book of everything, everything real world. Fandom's the rest of the library. There's books for every single, universe that's out there. And that's kind of how it is with Star Wars novels. It's you have your main story, but
Yep.
this is the rest of the library. It's more expansive than anyone could really imagine.
Yeah. That's it. Does it overwhelm you how expansive it is? Like when you
God, yeah.
go to Wookiepedia,
absolutely. I have a never-ending pile of books to read. I am so far behind in comics. It's impossible for any one person to actually keep on top of anything or everything unless maybe you're working on it.
Thank you for saying that, because I've been coming to the books and the comics a little bit later. I was more of a film and television fan growing up, and so I've been diving into that lore now. But it's overwhelming. I mean, I have a
There's
stack.
so much.
I've only gotten through 3 or maybe 2 or 3 at this point, but like I have a stack here, and I know it's just scratching the surface. So to hear someone who's been reading them since the beginning say that is comfort.
Yeah, that's honestly what we're here for. If people are using our site and they're feeling as helping them explore this galaxy in their own way, you know what? That's exactly what we're going for. We want everyone to enjoy this galaxy as much as we all do.
What are some lesser known aspects of the site that you think people tend not to access and should?
I would say probably for people who are curious about editing would be our tutorial pages. It's a relatively new thing, but we have 3 different levels like Padawan, Knight, and Master.
Master.
And
was never a master at Wookiepedia entries.
But it's and it just kind of breaks down like, everything about editing from the easiest things to do to the hardest things. And I think one of the things people don't really notice is the fact that Wookiepedia is all done by fans. It's not people who are hired to do a job. It's just people doing something they love in their spare time. And you know what? Anyone can do it. It's as simple as just making an account and hitting the edit button.
That's awesome.
What is your favorite part of working at Wookiepedia or with Wookiepedia?
Honestly, definitely just the community. Just getting to interact with everybody, getting to kind of brighten someone's day up with, a little reply to a tweet, like something as simple as dropping a hello there gif on somebody who's mentioned Wookiepedia and, seeing that joy pop up. That's, I think the most rewarding part of it is just getting to bring that joy to everyone.
Yeah, I think you responded to one of my posts that was promoting Vanessa Marshall. And when you responded, I had that joy. I was like, Wookiepedia noticed me? All right.
It is the most fun part of what I do. It's just getting to brighten someone's day up. If someone's having a bad day, what can we do to make it a little better?
I have a question. We've been talking a lot about this fandom and the collaboration that's been involved in the building of that site and the joy that gets shared amongst fans. And I'm curious, what is it, and this might have already answered it, but what is it about the Star Wars fandom that sets it apart from so many other cult fandoms that are out there?
I've contemplated that one before, and I think what it comes down to is just that core goal that Star Wars is for everyone in its own way, regardless if you're a kid, a teenager, an adult, or, at whatever age you are, there's something for you. It's not just for one age, it's for everyone. And everyone's going to find their own inspiration in it. And it might not be the same as someone else's, and that's okay. It's all valid.
Yeah.
As someone who's working with Star Wars every day, working with fans on social every day, do you have a thought of how to introduce Star Wars to someone new, whether it's a movie order or books or it's toys?
I personally tend to lean towards chronological order. That way you start them with the Phantom Menace, they get to know Anakin and they get their hearts ripped out by Revenge of the Sith. And then that just brings them into the original trilogy and you're thinking, oh, everything's fine. And then it just kind of keeps throwing curveballs at you.
Yeah.
Then after the movies, that's when I'll start, even what I did in the case of my girlfriend, who up until we started dating had never actually seen Star Wars.
Oh, no.
So we just went completely chronological. So like we did like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and we threw in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
We just literally did everything perfectly in chronological order, and it made it so much more rewarding.
That's really fun.
Watching the movies and then going into the Clone Wars must have been really, really, like, that's a lot of watching, but it's also got to be so fulfilling in a way.
It's such a surreal way of watching it, especially when I know full well what's going to happen and I get to see that reaction of somebody. That's one of my favorite things is getting to introduce someone to something else and getting to just see their reactions at, the high points, be it when Anakin turns, when Ahsoka, when Rex says, starts executing Order 66 on Ahsoka, those moments where you get to just see how what their core reaction is,
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So you've turned a Star Wars fan.
And this question may be delicate, so feel free to say pass. But in working with social media and the fans on social media, I know Star Wars has a lot of kind of diverse opinions and feelings of it has to be this way or it has to be that way. There's a lot of conflict in the fandom. Do you find it difficult to navigate that while extending your own passion for Star Wars? Or do you have any tips and hints for me?
So the way that I always look at it is there's always going to be those negative opinions. There's always going to be those people who just want to have negative takes for the sake of having a negative take just to get the reaction out of people. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
My view is the best thing we can all do is just engage with the positive side of it, stand up for what's right, stand up for the fans who are being, bullied and harassed by the more toxic elements.
Mm-hmm.
And just stand up and say, you know what, this is not okay. This isn't what Star Wars is about. Star Wars is, something for everyone and not just for people who want to gatekeep their own personal view of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I totally agree with you. I'm of the opinion that I just kind of, if there's an aspect that I'm not loving, I just focus more on the aspects that I do love of it.
Yeah.
Well, and Wookiepedia is such a center to the Star Wars fandom.
Yes.
Everyone's referenced it at some point. So I think it's those who have that kind of platform and share that platform, like doing exactly what you just said, which is kind of setting the precedent for what fandom needs to look like in terms of also like the way we treat one another. That I think that's gonna be what kind of rights that ship. God, that's my second nautical metaphor.
We're on a roll here tonight.
It is the Imperial Navy, so it's okay.
There you go. Yeah. No, I think that's important that more and more those who have the platform and the voice to say knock it off or to just not pay any mind to it are doing that. So kudos to you guys.
And that's one of the reasons why, like, you'll see on Wookiepedia, like, I'm sure everyone's seen our Pride logo. We've been doing a lot of other ones this year for, like, Women's History Month, for Black History Month. We just want to know, we want people to know that, you know what, this is for everybody, not just one person, not just for a small group. This is for everybody in their own way.
It's the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what we're always going to stand up for. We're always going to stand up for everyone. And I love the fact that, we're seeing a lot of positive creators coming out there. We've got, you've got us, you've got like the Star Wars account, and their social media team does such a fantastic job at really just kind of hyping everyone up. You've got people like, Alex and Molly over at Star Wars Explained, who are just always bringing the positivity. And that's the voices that we try to amplify.
Yeah.
That's spectacular. And it's a ton of work. And you have a ton of work just with this handling social of Wookiepedia, as well as probably your life. You
understatement of the century.
Day life as well. But do you have any other Star Wars passion projects that you're working on?
Honestly, it tends to mostly just be Wookiepedia is kind of my main passion project. Beyond that, though, like I try to help me and an indie creator named, you've probably seen him around on social media, Tommy Stella. We've both been working on building up a Discord for his site, Rad as Heck, which is going to be aimed at helping indie creators, kind of helping boost up those kind of smaller voices who are doing really positive, really passionate things, but just maybe don't really know where to start,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a nice place where people can just get advice, take a look at my work, help me connect with people. And that's kind of our other little passion project, is just helping bring people together. We've already had several amazing comics created from it that will absolutely rip your hearts out. So I highly recommend checking out The Days by Tommy Stella and B.A. Roth.
All right.
Highly recommend. Be warned, you'll want Kleenex. Trust me.
Well, okay, so you're working to support artists. You talked about at the beginning of our conversation, you were really diving into the books and you were kind of marking your favorite places in them and stuff. I can tell that you're really into good storytelling and the kind of the craft of that. What is your personal creative outlet, and how has Star Wars influenced that for you?
Honestly, it tends to be Wookiepedia, but through everything I've learned on Wookiepedia, it's helped me out in my personal life as well. So like I've become more outgoing. I've become a little more kind of outspoken as opposed to just being soft spoken. It's kind of really helped me kind of come into my own as an adult. You know, kind of went from this shy teenager who found a site about Star Wars to now this. I'm out, talking to people on podcasts. It really kind of helped me come into my own. And that's something I've heard from so many people across the fandom platform, that it helped them really hone their own skills and learn a little more about themselves.
Yeah, I think that a lot of Star Wars fans share that with the story and the community.
Yes.
I think, probably one of the only kids, the only girls, I could say this, in my group that was into sci-fi and Star Wars. And so it was kind of like my thing. And it was, it wasn't until I got older and found my own Star Wars community. And now look, here we are, 3 of us on this podcast. So no, I love that. I think that's a journey that a lot of people can see themselves in.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where if you were to go back in time and tell yourself, let's say like 10, 15, even like 15 years ago, you're going to be doing a podcast, you're going to be, interviewing people, you wouldn't believe it, but here it is.
Yeah.
So you never know, like I said, you never know where that journey is going to take you.
Yeah. So love the things you love.
Exactly.
Mic drop.
I'm on a roll today when it comes to positive platitudes, and I'm just vibing with it. I'm having a good day.
Thank you for bringing it to us.
Yes.
Okay, wait. So on that thread of all the things that are announced right now in the Star Wars universe, what are you most looking forward to?
There's so many things to choose from.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm going to go with the Acolyte.
Yeah.
Because I am absolutely loving the High Republic. I am a little behind on it. I've kind of jumped around a little bit. So like I've read things after the fall of Starlight Beacon, but I've never actually read about the fall of Starlight Beacon. But I'm very excited to see live action for Nestor Rowe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just see where that journey is going to take. It's going to be an older and a wiser Vern, and I'm very curious to see what direction that's going to go.
I agree.
With the High Republic, it's something I was slow into getting into. I've read the first 2 books, and I'm going to start the third by Claudia Gray, the Fall of Starlight Beacon. I forget the exact title of it, but I apologize. I don't know what is going on with See, I'm having an opposite vibe day as you. Jordan, my vibe day is like I keep hitting obstacles.
It'll get cut together, and it'll just sound like we were totally ready to go. Yeah.
No one will know about the hiccups. It's like when I do interviews with people, all the mistakes I made disappear, and suddenly it's just a perfect string of it. Everything's fine.
Exactly.
Everything's fine here now. Thank you.
You mentioned the High Republic. I just got into the High Republic. How would you pitch the High Republic to someone new, to a new Star Wars, a Star Wars fan who's new to the High Republic? To
someone who's like, okay, the best way to pitch something like that is it's such an all-encompassing project. It covers so many different mediums. I would say, what were the stories before the rise of the Empire?
Yeah.
I think that's the tagline I would go with if I was going to go on their marketing team. What's the stories what stories were told before the rise of the Empire?
That's really good. That's really good because it like gets to the heart of what it is which is very much. How did we
get here?
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Yeah.
Which I think is a really amazing element about Star Wars. That's not exactly in Star Trek or Doctor Who. It's this element that the tracks are being laid down in the past, and they lead you to where up to where you are at the moment. And that's one of the most amazing and real life things about Star Wars that there can be.
Yeah.
What would you like to?
And I think that's a good. I'll give credit. Like the Lucasfilm Story Group do such a great job, at just kind of interconnecting all these stories.
Yeah,
and, they've got so much going on at the same time, and yet they still manage to just weave it all together in some way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it feels fairly flawless. I'm sure if you really dove deep into it and had like red string on a map, you could find.
So what we do basically.
Yeah, But I do think that you're right to give them credit because they do this fantastic job of everything just kind of fitting in like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because the errors just give you different, like, here's the High Republic portion of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And here's the New Order
Yeah, and then you get you get these other stories being told, like, the High Republic, and it just bounces around so much, and it's pieces of the puzzle that you wouldn't even have thought about.
Yeah, and I really personally love when they take like Bad Batch and it's like, here's a little piece of the Emperor puzzle, and then they take Mandalorian and go, here's another little piece of the Emperor puzzle, and then you take Adam Christopher's Shadow of the Sith. Here's another piece of the Emperor's puzzle.
Yeah,
I think my favorite one was Rogue One, when you have her going through and Project War Mantle, and so many years later, it's like Project War Mantle. It's like, that's what you were doing. That's what you were doing.
Yes.
And you just want to scream, is this what you were planning all along, or did you just throw that name in and then find something to tie in with it?
I kind of think it's the second, but that's also the brilliance of
kudos to them for making that connection. Yeah.
Because if you look at Star Wars, and I'm an original trilogy kid, so I always look at A New Hope this way. But you look at New Hope, there's so many things just tossed out there and thrown away, down to the female twins in the cantina bar. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who are those people? And there's a whole story about them.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy about Star Wars, is how it has these things tossed aside, but then you go back and you can explore it very deep.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just take any kind of background character from any scene and give them a full backstory. And it's just amazing how they do it. Even back when it was Legends and they had, I want to say it was a thing in Star Wars Insiders maybe, where it's, who's that alien? And they would just explore the background characters in this one scene in the cantina. And it's like, I didn't even notice that person there. And now they have this full backstory.
Yes.
It's like they were there for a reason.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, going back to like how it represents real life, we're all kind of like, I had no backstory to you until we're right here.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of stumbling along in the cantina of life, trying to get a ride to Alderaan, I guess.
Yeah. We're rocking the metaphors tonight. I'm here for this.
Yeah, right?
Is that ride on a boat?
Cue up the music. I'm on a boat. Just cue it up.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Sorry, it was right there. Rule of threes.
All right. What would you like to see in the future of Star Wars?
I want to see us go in the future. Not by like a couple years, but I want to see us go a couple 100 years in the future.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
I was always a fan of the legacy comics back in Legends, where it's like, you see a couple generations down the line, you have a new fell empire, you have, what the Galactic Alliance becomes. And it's just, it's a new era to explore, but you can explore it in a way that ties it back to what's already happened, but while still having that freedom to explore.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that again. I would also love to see them explore more about the other galaxy they visited in Ahsoka, because it's got its own stories. Who knows what happened there?
Yeah, what's the conflict over there?
Yeah. I mean, it's its own galaxy with its own rich history. There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
That's a brand new cantina unto itself.
It's a whole new galaxy canvas to explore.
Exactly. I loved in Ahsoka when I'll fail on the pronunciation of his name. Huang?
Oh.
Huang. Jeez, yeah, I know. I'm you know what? Not even going to try anymore. When he said when he was telling Ahsoka a story, he goes, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all screamed when that happened.
Right? And I don't know why that hit me so hard, because usually I'm cynical and I don't like that kind of thing.
Oh, but that nostalgia is deep.
Yeah.
It
kind of just brought back that inner child, experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Full circle, as it were.
It's like anytime I see the fanfare, there is a part of me that just wants to start welling up.
Yes.
I went and saw the John Williams tribute concert at our local symphony, and
nice.
I should have worn the waterproof mascara that night, y'all. I really should have.
Honestly, I think even though when they first announced The Force Awakens, I was a little upset that things were being taken away.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to that theater and I saw, a long time ago, I had the biggest grin on my face. I was grinning like an idiot the whole time. It was spectacular. It was exactly what I remembered.
Okay, I think this is a
Yeah.
good time to ask, what 3 elements make Star Wars to you?
Ooh, what 3 elements?
Because we've kind of been,
It's going to be, number 1's going to be the passion that everyone that's creating it brings to this galaxy, be it,
Oh,
the
I love
writers,
that.
the artists,
Mm.
the people who are doing the makeup, the costumers, it's the
Mhm.
assistants. Everyone working on it is bringing their own passion to it. It's not just a job. They're bringing their childhood passion to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be that. It's going to be just this creative storytelling and how they weave everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And the third, honestly, I'm going to go off and say, honestly, the fan community. Just
Yeah.
the joy that the fan community brings to it. Because I know that's something they get a lot of joy out of. And they'll take that joy and use it to bring it full circle. It's just kind of this circle of joy, They bring the
Yeah.
products to the people love it.
Yeah.
It's just everyone enjoys it. So we're going to go with that, I think. I think we're going to go with the fan community, the people who are working on it, and the storytelling.
Collaboration, passion, and good
Yeah.
story. I like
Yes,
it. Yeah.
I like it.
That's awesome. What is your favorite Star Wars memory?
Putting aside the seeing Heir to the Empire for the first time, in a local used bookstore, I'm going to go with the conversation I had with my childhood best friend where he was telling me about this ship called the Sun Crusher. And he was telling me all about this thing and how he had read it on Wookiepedia, and I was just enthralled. I didn't know any of this existed, and it's like I look it up and there's a thing that can destroy. This is cool, And I
Yeah.
remember us talking for at least a good 30, 45 minutes of just about this ship. And I don't know why, but that one just stuck with me.
All right.
I think that was probably when I was first introduced to Wookiepedia, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's a total link from friendship to Wookiepedia,
Yeah.
and obviously about Star Wars,
Yeah.
but this idea that I just think that's really kind of beautiful that your favorite memory contains like friendship, Star Wars, and what you're passionate about now.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that was the moment that clicked for you.
Yeah.
Where you were sitting there on Wookiepedia and you went, I see my whole life ahead of me, and I know exactly where I want
all
to
this
sail.
website every day, every night for the next 20 years.
It's the people.
And really, that's what it comes down to. It's just it's the community. It's more than just a website. It's the people behind it. It's this whole kind of fan community just coming together.
Yeah, it is the fans lifting Star Wars up and keeping it held high, keeping it on a pedestal in a way.
Yeah.
Keeping it ignited.
Keeping the Republic high.
Yes. For light and life.
Yes, for light and life.
So our final question for you is we've talked a lot about your passion for Star Wars. How Revenge of the Sith really kind of pushed you into becoming a fan of watching in chronological order from Phantom Menace to the end to introduce your girlfriend to Star Wars, and the discovery of Wookiepedia and really becoming a part of that family. As we talked about all this, can you say, what does Star Wars mean to you?
If I was to sum it up in one word,
doesn't have to be
use
one.
two.
No, I'm going to go joy.
Yeah.
It's this thing that we all love that brings us all together. And it's as simple as that. We all do this because we love it. We all watch Star Wars because we love it. We read it because we love it. People write fan fiction because they love it. It's just all about joy at the core of it.
I like it.
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I totally agree with you.
Thank you for bringing that to us tonight. This has been really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw in one. I'm gonna throw in one other fun story just because
Oh yeah.
Should.
I'm gonna pay for this one later, but my girlfriend actually used to hate Star Wars.
Okay.
Not because of anything Star Wars was, but for years, because Wookiepedia is one of the larger sites on fandom, we've kind of been the proverbial golden child. We got the attention, we kind of got all, the extra assistance, and that just kind of soured her on Star Wars in general. She came from a smaller wiki about a novel series called Warrior Cats.
I was gonna say, what was the competing? Yeah.
Warrior Cats. And that just kind of soured her experience of Star Wars. She didn't like it. She didn't like Wookiepedia. And all these years later, I think it's just so amazing that she ends up dating someone who's working on Wookiepedia and becoming a Star Wars superfan on her own, to the point where we're probably going to stay up till 3 a.m. tonight to watch The Bad Batch.
Sure.
And And it's just one of my favorite things is the fact that she went from this diehard, I don't like Star Wars to tech and just all so much crying.
I love it.
That's honestly, it's one of my favorite stories.
And that's what Joy will do.
Honestly, this platform is what brought us together in the first place.
Yeah.
We both got invited to fandoms. Like I said, so every year Fandom does their Community Connect, where they'll invite people to an in-person conference. So in 2022, it was LA. We had known of each other, we'd interacted in the past within various circles. It was pointed out to us after that the entire week we were in LA, we were basically joined at the hip the entire time. So we were just kind of gravitating towards each other without either of us really realizing it.
Yeah.
And after a couple of weeks of us just kind of just sitting together, like on call, watching stuff and just talking, it's like, we like each other. And just kind of like, we had that moment where it's like, okay, this is okay.
This is happening.
That's terrific. Now, does she do any Wookiepedia entries or editing?
She dabbles a little bit, yeah. She's done some article reviewing here and there. She tends to, what her focus is on her main wiki, so Warrior Cat, so she does a lot of like content creation there. So on Wook, it's more of just kind of like a relaxing. But her main focus is basically community safety. So making sure that the younger crowd on her site feels safe. And, feels like it's a place they can come to and relax and not have to worry.
Yes.
So I think that's something that she really helps bring. And I'm hoping that she'll start making a little more editing here and there. But I can't steal away from her wiki. I know they love her over there.
Well, Jordan, thank you so much for sharing what Star Wars means to you with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Please feel free to bring me back anytime. This was a blast.
Oh, good. I'm
Absolutely.
so glad. Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for joining us. Jordan, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. Thank you for having me.
Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners, and that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.